Hello to all of my subscribers, paid and unpaid, and to my viewers from across various platforms, from Fool's Gold, Confessions from an Educated Fool and Substack, from And We Are Not Saved on Patreon and on YouTube. This is Donald Earl Collins again with another post and another brief sort of thinking beyond just the post regarding this is how they do black women and how they do black folk, particularly around jobs and the job market, and the fact that the job market is always harder on black and brown people, especially black people and especially black women. And right now was as bad as it's been pretty much probably the last 100 to 110 years, between the government shutdown, recent federal government shutdown, a record one, 6 week shutdown, which probably caused some people to look for other kinds of work. The kicking out of black women out of leading federal jobs over the course of the last year or two, and from leading jobs across various sectors of the American economy over the last 2 or 3 years. When you're talking about Claudine Gay in Harvard University, or Karen Adia and her being the last black columnist at the Washington Post as of 2.5 until 2.5 months ago. When you're talking about professors like me who have lost their work or lost a sense of some of their work, or being able to have access to their work because of taking stances on Palestine or stances on DEI or stances on Trump and so on and so forth. We know that NBC has gotten rid of all their verticals around NBC BLK, NBC Latino, and Asian American, and NBC Out. CBS News laying off a disproportionate number of their black and brown journalists and producers and editors and so on. And just the drum beat, the racist drum beat and disproportionate impact goes on and on. But it's not just that. Apparently on the Laura Ingraham show on Fox News this week, Trump went on to say that we need certain kind of H-1B status skilled workers because our workers simply aren't trained up enough to make missiles, to put together parts and so on and so forth. I would play the video for you, but there's no need. I've watched it 3 times this morning alone just to confirm that the guy is a useful idiot. He blathers in stupid, lying, craven ways about stuff, but simultaneously has a message. And his message is he doesn't think any American workers, let alone black American workers, are good enough to work in today's economy. That's his message, right? So we need to import certain kinds of highly skilled people, drain brains from Korea and China and India and Pakistan and, Nepal and so on, because our American workers are idiots. And by the way, he's always thought y'all were idiots. That's why he says you in this video, in this recording, in this interview he does with Laura Ingraham, instead of saying us, because he doesn't see himself as part of the American worker class that happens to be, as far as he's concerned, a bunch of undertrained, skilled, constantly unemployed, Neanderthal idiot types, right? So, his eugenics view, old style eugenics view, is that, most white American workers just aren't good enough when it comes to the stuff that we need in today's economy. And if white workers, the white working class, as far as Trump is concerned, isn't good enough, then what does that say about what he thinks about black and brown women and black and brown people? It says what it's always said, that he doesn't give a crap. He doesn't give a shit about any of us. So, and however accomplished we are, however creative we are, he doesn't care. And it's not just him. There are an entire class of white men in this country who happen to have money, who happen to have power and wealth, who don't believe that any of us are good at anything except for whatever they want us to do, not what we think we're capable of doing, what they think we should be doing in order to support them, in order to enrich them, and they have to exploit us in order to do so. So it's the same old story with a different spin and a different face, right? And so it's terrible out here. Someone who has been, searching for work since, learning about 2 years ago that I wouldn't be back at Loyola University, and been hanging by a thread of the kinds of work that I've had over the past, say, almost year and a half now. I can tell you it is horrific out here. But if it's hard for me, I can only imagine what it would be like if I was a black woman or a Latina or someone of color as a woman trying to navigate the misogynoir and the general misogyny and racism and other isms that are out there preventing me from getting a job and something I'm completely and utterly qualified to do, especially if you're over 45 or 50 like I am, right? You're too young to retire because you don't have the money to do it and you don't have the Social Security net to use to do it. And you're too old, as far as people are concerned, a lot of them being people who are your age and older, to actually get the jobs you want because you cost too much, right? That kind of thing. So it's a horrific situation either way. And Trump's idiocy, however idiotic it is, has a logic to it. It's a eugenicist kind of logic to it that says that we're just incapable of doing and incapable and too unemployed to be able to do the kinds of work that he thinks that he thinks even um, white working class workers can't do. So it's I feel for everybody, not just myself, but I definitely feel for everybody who's in this economy right now. Feeling, part of what, on The Expanse, the character Amos called the churn. We are definitely in the churn right now.